I say, yeah, breakfast must be good. Everybody's enjoying, huh?
All right. Well, on behalf of the Orange Chamber of Commerce, good morning. Happy October, which is almost over. I cannot believe it. We are almost at Treats in the Streets. Thank you so much for joining us today. As you can see, we have a very special guest, Assemblyman Avelino Valencia, here today. He is here to answer your questions. As you guys know, because I've seen most of your faces before, I do have some questions for him, but this is about your time with him. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand. I would like to keep us on time, so bearing in mind the time, I'll probably stop taking questions about 10 minutes to the hour if we go that far as questions and answers. But with that, I'd love to go ahead and get started. So again, it's my pleasure to introduce Avelino Valencia. I have your bio here, so if you don't mind, I'm going to go ahead and read that because I don't know if everyone here knows you. They probably do, but it's just a nice formality.
Thank you.
Avelino Valencia was elected to the California State Assembly in November of 2022 to represent the 68th Assembly District, which includes the cities of Anaheim, Santa Ana, and our beautiful Orange. A native of Anaheim, Avelino is the son of immigrant parents who built a successful small business in the city where he developed his work ethic helping out in the family market after school. He attended local public schools in the Anaheim School District, graduating from Coachella High School and earning his associate degree from Fullerton College before transferring to San Jose State University. Go Spartans, my best friend is Spartan. Where he also played Division I college football. After earning his bachelor's degree in political science, Avelino briefly played in the National Football League and then returned to Orange County to coach football at Fullerton College. He also taught as a special education instructional assistant in the Anaheim Elementary School District. In 2013, he put his college degree to use when he began working in local offices for state officials in the Senate and State Assembly for 9 years. Avelino also served as council member for the city of Anaheim from 2020 to 2022 during the pandemic, where he worked to expand access to health resources, establish a small business assistance program, advocated for the importance of public safety, and increased accessibility to housing, all while being a responsible fiscal steward to tax dollars. In 2020, Avelino graduated with his master's degree in public management from Johns Hopkins University before being elected into the state assembly, succeeding former Assemblymember Tom Daly in 2022 in the new 68th district. Assemblymember Valencia is married to his high school sweetheart Monica, who is a high school principal in the Anaheim Elementary School District. Both share their joy for physical fitness, gastronomical exploration, and off-roading adventures. Again, thank you for joining us this morning and welcome. Please let's give them a warm welcome.
Thank you. Appreciate the invitation.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. Happy to be home. We just got done with legislative session mid-September, then took a little personal trip, a few days to kind of unwind and get resettled, and then back into the swing of things, making sure that I'm getting acclimated with the new district that was redistricted in 2022 that expanded to most of Orange as well. So happy to be here, and thank you.
Well, it seems that you've had a great first legislative year, and what a great success. So congratulations on having 9 of your bills passed, or all 9 of your bills passed. Or what I'd like to know is if you could share a little bit about how you decided to go into politics. It seemed like you were headed towards education and sports coaching, which is amazing. But now you're in politics, so tell us about that.
Yes. So I had a wonderful experience with my upbringing. I came from a small business family, so the thought of going into government or working in politics never crossed my mind, whether that was growing up as a kid or when I was in college. The call to service didn't come into play until recently, really. When I was actually working for the state legislature, I started working for some members in LA. And would commute from Orange County to LA, and started to understand government, started falling in love with what I was doing. A lot of similarities. It was shared that I coached at the junior college level as well. That was my first passion. I wanted to be a Division I football coach after I got done playing football because of the mentorship, especially that age group. I was a JUCO kid as well, and had a second opportunity to continue my passion after only playing 1 year of high school football. So I really want to focus on that age group and provide young individuals a second opportunity to do something that they were passionate about. And then when I got into working for the government, and I will thank my mother for encouraging me at the young age of 23, 24 to maybe get a suit and tie job as opposed to putting on football shorts and a t-shirt to go to work after I had graduated. saw a lot of similarity between helping others in public service and mentorship as a coach. And that's really what drew me into public service. So after I was involved politically and professionally in LA, then started getting acclimated here in Orange County, I was offered a job by the former legislator who I succeeded, Assemblymember Tom Daly. Didn't quite know if I wanted to be an elected official still. I was very passionate about administration, government, teamwork, especially because of my small business background and athletic background. And I went back to grad school with the hope and plan of getting into city management. And that's actually the path that I was on. And after I graduated from Johns Hopkins, I had a conversation with the former assembly member, and I said, hey, you know what, I think I want to pursue a career in public administration. So I applied to an opening in the city of, in the county of Orange. And because of COVID, after I had received that job offer, I was actually just waiting for a start date. Everything went on pause. The world shut down and nobody knew what impact was going to come from the pandemic and how things were going to unfold. So that threw my personal life into a flux. I was in between going from one profession to start a new one. I had just gotten married as well. My wife had gotten her doctorate and she had just become an administrator at the elementary school district. So we thought, okay, we'll take this next step in my professional career and then we'll kind of coast a little and see where we go from there. But because of that pause, we had to readjust, and Assemblymember Daly, who I do consider as a mentor, encouraged me to look at running for city council in Anaheim. It was during a very critical, unprecedented time. As we all know, the economy was shut down. People were suffering from the pandemic. And Anaheim at that time was in between being very proactive in reopening the economy because, Disneyland, the resort, really is the economic hub of the region, and then doubling down on healthcare, which was opening up a vaccine superpod and getting PPE equipment and vaccines into the community. And at that time, I felt like I could be a voice in finding a middle ground to be as pragmatic as possible in achieving those two endeavors. So that's in part why I decided to run. And even that was unprecedented because campaigns, as you all know, especially at the local level, consist of having to knock on doors and talk face-to-face to residents. Well, we weren't able to do that, so I had to get very creative as to how I ran my campaign as a younger person as well, and thankfully was successful. So that was kind of my path and trajectory into public service.
Very nice. And 68 is such a strong seat because, all the seats are important, of course, all of them, all 80. But 68 having so many sports teams, Disneyland, our wonderful city, it's a strong seat. So thank you so much for your service to the county.
Absolutely.
District.
Absolutely.
Well, we would love to hear a bit more about your recent Assembly Bill, AB 34. You mentioned redistricting a little bit in our first little chat. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about what that is doing for the community, because it seems like we had Gabby Vasquez here about 2.5 years ago, and that was one of our hot topics at the time. Mm-hmm. That was around census time. So tell us about this commission.
Every 10 years, some of us may be aware that census data is collected to calculate population, demographics, and based off of that data, then as government, we're able to allocate resources appropriately depending on the needs of the community. And with that also comes the opportunity to redistrict election districts. In California, there is now an independent commission that tends to be unbiased to create the Assembly and Senate districts, which then removes the elected officials' ability from having a say in what their district actually looks like. And I think that's a much better route than having the person in the seat have a say as to what their districts could potentially look like. I'm not saying that any nefarious activity does take place, but I like to be proactive, so I'd rather be safe than sorry. And when the state made that transition, I thought that was a step in the right direction for transparency and democracy. And when I was on the Anaheim City Council, we went through the census process as well. And I was heavily involved in the process to ensure that there was an unbiased outcome when it came to the council districts redistricting. So when I got to the state level, I started analyzing different levels of government and looked at Orange County, the supervisorial board. They have the ability to dictate what their maps are going to look like. So I just thought it best to do my part to ensure that, again, we're being proactive in ensuring democracy and there's a balanced approach to the process. And this actually won't take place until the next census cycle. Right. So was very appreciative.
2030, right?
2030, correct. Appreciative of the governor for signing this specific bill. There were other bills across the state by other colleagues who had similar goals that were actually vetoed. So very much appreciative of the governor's support of Orange County in this specific bill for democracy.
That's awesome. Thank you. AB 721, I found that interesting. So that is a statutory requirement for county superintendents to publish district budget meeting notices. Okay, so antiquated.
Yes, yes.
For those who don't know, it's published in the newspaper. Who here has read a newspaper recently? An actual paper? Okay. Two people. We've got about
paper
people.
Copies or email. Email version.
Email version. Okay, so tell us about that and how it's important to us.
Sure. With the evolving of society and technology, information is so accessible now online. And per state statute, these budget hearing notices have to be posted in print. And to your point about news outlets not being as popular or used as they were in the past, and I think that original state statute was well intended and appropriate for the times when it was passed. Things are now evolving and changing. So without having this law go into effect, school districts are actually having to pay to publish this public information when it comes to resources and financial dollars in hard print to abide by the state code. So I'm very much a proponent of fiscal responsibility and using our resources as efficiently as possible. I would rather see those dollars go towards investing in education and empowering schools as opposed to them having to pay to post something where it's not being seen or easily accessed, right? So now this bill would allow, it's very simple, for school districts to post this information on their website and broadcast it on social media without breaking state statute.
Great. And I can see that. It's like if somebody posted something in the newspaper, I mean, how often would we see that? Right. Even if we read it online, you probably wouldn't see, you might not see it for days.
Right.
So that's interesting. Thank you for doing that as well.
Sure.
Now, I know that you sit on the insurance committee, and insurance in California especially has become quite sticky with homeowners and renters insurance and insurance companies, you know, not wanting to be in the state. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like right now as far as what can be done and what's being done?
Yes, it was a topic of contention that we have been aware about the challenges for some time, and it just came to a very critical point during the summer and then towards the end of session. The speaker, Robert Rivas, to his credit, created a working group that consisted of 5 members. He assigned me to be a part of that working group as well to see if there was a way that we could collaboratively work with the insurance industry and the insurance commissioner on a positive outcome for all parties involved. The speaker requested that we focus on consumer protections as well, despite the challenges that we have in the insurance market. Right now, there are major companies who are no longer reissuing policies in the state of California, which is a challenge. And unfortunately, there is no quick, easy solution to this issue that has been building up for many years. The governor and the insurance commissioner are in the process of implementing some updates to the regulatory process to allow for more expedited premium increases. And that's something that I believe Californians as a whole don't necessarily want to hear or fond of, but we are coming to a situation where if we don't develop a much better platform for this state when it comes to insurance, it could all crumble. So that's going to be one of the main issues that we focus and tackle here coming the next legislative cycle, and I'm sure we're going to have a lot of press and a lot of bills pertaining to that issue.
So that one in particular, I know it affects so many people. It's something that's come up in conversation before. What can, I guess, our business community and our community at large do to make sure to, I guess, be in the loop on that, or if there's any support needed, how would they best be able to support that?
Absolutely. stay in touch with your local chambers. You guys do phenomenal work when it comes to advocacy, whether it's the Orange County Business Council or the local chamber in each municipality, advocating for business issues and how these types of policies will impact the business community. I'd also recommend you reaching out to legislators as well, specifically the members who either sit on the insurance committee or have carried legislation that revolves around insurance. I always, for some reason, and I always like to say that I'm better lucky than good. The former legislator who I worked for, Assemblymember Tom Daly, was actually the chair of the insurance committee for about 6 years when he was in the assembly. So it's a nuanced topic. It's not a sexy conversation, right? But it's extremely important. And I have some experience working in that field. So I look forward to being deeply involved the next go around as well. And please feel free to use me as a resource as well. I have an open door policy. I love hearing from local folks how Sacramento policy is impacting at the local level.
Okay.
Being from this community as well, I have a deep understanding of that. So those are some ways to get involved.
Awesome. Great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'll take a little break from my questions. I would love to have any of your questions answered. So does anyone have a question? In the back, speak up, please.
Can you tell us what committees you're on?
Sure. I actually sit on a few committees. I do not chair a committee. However, I sit on Rules Committee. I sit on Military and Veterans. I sit on Insurance. I sit on GO, Government Organization. I also sit on Sports, Arts, and Entertainment. And then I also sit on a JLAC, which is the Joint Legislative Audit Committee, which I am very fond of because I'm a stickler for making sure that government is working as appropriately and as efficiently for its residents. Sure.
Since you mentioned the Joint Audit Committee, I know that you were part of just making sure that funds were not misused and having some audits done in other cities. Mm-hmm. How can the community and the public and our business community be sure what is being done, I guess, as far as oversight? Since now we've seen that some communities have abused that. What's being done to make sure that's not happening again, and that we can make sure and go forward smoothly with budgets in those areas?
So when I was on the city council, and it's I was actually reflecting back how much time I've actually served as an elected official. It honestly feels like a lot longer than I actually have been an elected official. I've been an elected official for a total of about 2.5 years. But in that time frame, we've gone, at least my experience, gone from a pandemic, complete shutdown of the economy, to some unfortunate dynamics in the city of Anaheim when I was on the city council and had to champion that as well, to now being in the state legislature with the new speaker taking over in a brand new class, the largest class of freshman colleagues in the last 20 years. So the reason that I got involved with the JLAC committee was in part because of my passion for good government, but I also use that as a tool to ensure that public resources just are not getting taken advantage of. I'm not saying that that's what took place, but again, I'd rather dot my I's, cross my T's, and I was able to implement an emergency audit to evaluate any dollar that has gone from the city of Anaheim to some entities in the city of Anaheim, public dollars that have gone from the city of Anaheim to some public entities in the last 10 years to ensure that there was no breach of contracts or any misuse of those dollars. And those dollars were being put to use back into the community to broadcast our tourism industry and make sure that we're bringing more dollars to the region.
I know it's like the back and forth between too much oversight and not any oversight. Mm-hmm. So in the future, does that look the same for them and everyone else, or now that that's happened? So
the audit will reveal any dynamics or details that partook in those past 10 years. In addition to that, the state auditor has subpoena power. Okay. So he has the ability to dive deeper into the financial records of those institutions. And he's also going to provide recommendations, and he typically does provide some sort of recommendation in terms of best practices or how to improve the status quo. That's not to say that those recommendations always get implemented into policy, but if they do, then that may be a positive that comes out of that. And just to ensure, again, businesses pay a significant amount of taxes and provide resources to the state. And at the end of the day, if they're not being used efficiently and effectively, then we're shortchanging our residents, our business community. So I just want to make sure that we're staying on top of that.
Right. Well, while we're on the topic of money, let's talk about budget. So I know that you secured about $2.5 million for your district, our district. Can you tell us about what monies from that is going to come to Orange and what that will look like.
Yes. So despite having budgetary challenges, I was able to work collaboratively with my colleagues to secure specific dollars for some of our cities. I got about 2.5 for the city of Anaheim. There was about 3 million total, including with the help of Senator Umberg for the homelessness efforts here in the city of Orange to expand the shelter. And then we also have some other programs in the pipeline as well. I'm also working on a statewide parks bond in collaboration with Assemblymember Eduardo Garcia. In that bond, we were able to earmark about $20 million specifically for the Santa Ana River and the development of that, with everything going on the other side of the river with OC Vibe, and then potentially the future plans here in the city of Orange to really bridge those two communities and have that be a commodity for the county all the way down to Santa Ana, and then also some work that's been taking place on the Santiago Creek. So very proud of that work, and hopefully that bond is successful, and then we'll have those resources coming back to the county as well. So, you know, we're very active, and we try to get as creative as possible despite the budgetary challenges. And I think we fared out okay for our first go at it this past year.
Yeah, definitely. I know I saw the Hub OC there, and we chatted with the Hub last year. They were the recipient of our Giving Tuesday funds, which was great. So they are so important to everyone here. So thank you so much for doing that. I know also Lestenac, which they're here today. They are also receiving funds, so that's amazing. Awesome. Thank you guys for coming. Any questions? Any other questions? We only had one. Oh gosh, lots of questions. Let's start over here.
Avelino, first off, I want to wish you a happy belated National Tight Ends Day birthday.
That's right.
That's a day.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I was a tight end. Still at heart, maybe, but not.
I'm curious what has surprised you the most about your time in the Assembly. You know, going from being a staffer to elected. Like, what surprised you? What have you enjoyed, or what's your experience been like sort of day to day?
Sure. Thank you for the question. I will say that being a former staffer, I believe has provided me with a better understanding of how to hit the ground running in Sacramento. So that's been an asset, I think, not only personally, but also for our community. The most surprising thing, though, despite having a better understanding of kind of what the internal dynamics are, is being on the assembly floor and interacting with 79 other assembly members who, maybe from an outside perspective, they almost seem out of reach or kind of in their own world. But I quickly realized that, you know, they're all people, and we come in all shapes and sizes and different ideology. And it's been a rewarding experience getting to know folks. Some folks that I don't necessarily agree with ideologically, but get to know them on a personal level. And that's been the most, I think, rewarding and, if you will, surprising experience thus far. It's a mixed bag, I would say, of colleagues for sure.
Thank you. You have a question?
Well, Peter and I work together, so neither one of us knew we were going to ask a question. So thank you for being here,
Sure.
And you mentioned that you serve on the JLAC, the Joint Legislative Body Committee, which I think is a great committee because it definitely instills accountability and transparency in government, which I'm sure you appreciate given your history. One issue that came up earlier this year, your committee approved Assemblymember Dixon's request for an audit of sober living and recovery homes. And in that industry, it's an important industry, and there are people who rely on the services those homes provide. There are good actors and bad actors. I'm just wondering if you have formulated a viewpoint on that issue and what you hope to see coming out of the audit next year.
Sure. I was happy to actually support the audit that the Assemblymember pushed through. It wasn't contentious, but there was some pushback definitely when we had that discussion. I think the audit is well intended. My experience on the city council, we had a few dynamics come up pertaining to that topic. So my hope for the audit is to find a better process moving forward. Absolutely, we need to invest in mental health and provide as many resources and facilities as possible, but I also think we need to be mindful about the community makeup and where these types of facilities are popping up. You know, if you have a neighborhood, a residential neighborhood that has a high concentration of these homes, and then we're having challenges when it comes to the housing crisis and having single families and people purchasing homes. I at times think that could be counterproductive long term, right? So my hope is that we find a more balanced approach and figure out how we move forward with all these challenges.
Makes sense. Thank you. One more slide.
First and foremost, I just want to say it's an orgullo to see Latinos leading the way, so that's big for me. So thank you for
Appreciate it, brother. Thank you.
And to the insurance point, Washington last year went through a process of creating the care fund, and that was a nightmare. And I know that we have a task force right now leading the way here in California. Can you share maybe some insight on how they're doing, how they're working with insurance companies, since this is going to affect everybody and the payroll tax and whatever they end up coming up with, maybe any insight you might have on how that task is going?
Sure. I don't have much insight. What I do know is that the federal government is also having to have conversations and has had conversations on the insurance topic. Our role as a state legislature differs from the federal government when it comes to insurance policy. So we don't, while we stay in communication, the policies that we pass and the issues that the federal government is able to engage in and have a say in are very different. So they're doing their own thing, and I'm not as knowledgeable as to what the federal government's doing right now. Our hope is to ensure that companies stay in California, provide accessible premiums, fair premiums to stakeholders, and then we're able to mitigate some of these potential wildfire crises that will be coming up in the near future. California is a unique state as well. We have Prop 103, so we have our own insurance guidelines that we have to abide by that include consumer protections and how the insurance world can do business in California, which also differentiates us from the federal government and how they interject with California, and then for that matter, how other states actually do policy work and business in the insurance industry. Yeah. Thank you.
Rachel has a question.
Going down the road here. Thank you again, Assemblymember, for joining us today. I touched on mental health just briefly earlier. I wanted to ask, I know you're a member of the Select Committee on Orange County Homelessness and Mental Health Services. I know we had a hearing today.
We do.
And I just wanted to ask kind of what your goal is for that Select Committee, what you think the work that they're going to do, knowing that the needs we have in mental health space are great, kind of what we need.
Yes, and kudos to a colleague from North Orange County, Assemblymember Sharon Kirk Silva, who is actually the chairperson of that committee. So after we conclude here, I'm going to head over to that hearing to do my part there as well. At the core, again, making sure that the resources that are being funneled and provided into this space are being maximized. It's no secret that at times there are headlines that are made that we have X amount of dollars going into this space, but we're only yielding these results, right? I am the first to advocate for and continue to support resources going into that area, but I do want to make sure that the ideas and the policies and the practices that we're implementing are providing the best results, because at the end of the day, I mean, that's the intent, right? Is to improve the situation that we're in, and mental health ranges in so many ways. So I just want to make sure that we're chipping away at that impact in our community. Yeah.
Thank you, Rachel. Well, maybe a fun question. So your profile or your bio mentions gastronomical exploration, or even which is quite the word. I think it's so fun.
Yeah. I like food. That's
I
what
love
it means.
food
I like
too.
food.
So I'm hoping maybe you have a favorite or two. What are your favorites in Orange so far?
Oh,
Any
goodness.
favorites? I know there's so many. We've
Yes.
got so many great restaurants, but you can give us a favorite, one of your couple favorites you have in the district.
Oh my goodness. Well, when I was a candidate, I was asked a fun question by the Orange County Register as well. And I highlighted how fortunate we are to have the ability to go really anywhere in the district and find any type of food, right? And the range is so wide. I love tacos. We have some of the best tacos, in my opinion, across the state. So there's wonderful restaurants from local shops to more sit-down spots in Orange that provide tacos and a wide range of food. I love acai bowls as well.
Yeah, those are good too.
You'll see me at Acai Bowl Shop off of Main Street at least once a week. So I'm quite often in this neck of the woods, and then my wife and I love coming to the Circle to enjoy what we have to offer. And there's some restaurants here as well that are owned by some stakeholders in Anaheim, so it's lovely to see that intersection as well of communities.
I know we have Dara, who has Pizza Press right across the street, so I know he has locations in Anaheim as well.
I had not been here before, so I will be coming back for breakfast, that's for sure. And it looked lovely. It seems like everybody enjoyed their breakfast, so happy to see that.
There's delicious food here. All day
Beautiful.
food. I think I've had breakfast, lunch, and dinner here, so.
Oh, wow.
Delicious.
Awesome.
All good. Okay, so would you mind sharing some of your legislative priorities for the coming year?
Sure. So insurance will be one of the areas that I dive deep into. The themes of good government, transparency, and accessibility to information will remain. Those are just pillars and that I'm very passionate about. Another topic that is become more and more relevant is in the space of technology, AI. That is something that we all have to address, figure out how the state will move in that direction, from the workforce to the impact on social media, the impact that it has in our communities. And that's another space that I plan on getting involved in.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what can our business community do for you? We mostly have our business community here, our chamber members, business owners, representatives. What can they do to help you do what you're doing?
Sure. Although I do come from a small business family, my dad sold the store about 8-10 years ago now, so I have that experience, but it's always refreshing and appreciated when local folks reach out and provide me their personal perspective on an issue or a policy that they're hearing about. I really do take that to heart, and it makes a difference when I'm making decisions on behalf of our district in Sacramento. So I would encourage you all to use our office as a resource in any way that we could help. Happy to do so.
Okay, and I know I saw on your website, there's a link on Avelino's website that is There Ought to Be a Law, which I thought was really interesting. So if you guys have ideas in mind, there's a direct place for you to place that information. And as far as contacting you, what's the best way for the community to contact you?
There's a few ways. Pick up the phone and call our office. You could just Google the office and it'll pop right up.
Definitely.
We're there 5 days a week, 9 to 5. Happy to help and serve. You can send us an email. You can also snail mail also works. It'll eventually get there, and we'll take a look at it. And we have an incredible team. Dr. Tina Arias Miller, who covers the city of Orange for us, is here as well. And she's often in the city of Orange. If you see her around, feel free to connect with her as well, or anyone else on our team. And then, of course, just feel free to reach out to me as well. As a former staffer and then a local elected, I do my best to stay as connected and in the weeds as possible. So I'm always happy to take a call, have a conversation, grab some coffee. So feel free to reach out and do that as well.
That's awesome. Well, I want people to have time to be able to chat with you before you have to go. So
Sure.
Is there any last word you have for the business community before I head into some announcements?
Just in closing, this next year, we are expecting to have some changes in our budget. Some of you may be aware as business folks, the federal government extended the deadline to submit your taxes again from what was October 16th to November 16th, which is delaying the budget process for the state. We approved a budget based on some assumptions in terms of trends and how the economy is going. We fared out okay this year, but we just don't know what's going to happen next year after the reporting takes place. So my hope is to ensure again that we're tightening where we can and reinvesting as appropriately as possible to ensure that we have a strong economy in California. We're the 5th largest economy globally as a state, which is something to be proud of. And that's kudos and a testament to the hard work that our small business community provides, in my opinion, to the state. We have large corporations, the largest corporations in the world do business in California, but about 60-65% of the workforce and economy comes from small businesses. So I don't forget about that when I'm advocating for policy. So again, just these budgetary challenges are going to be unique this next go around. But I'll do my best to ensure that we're trying to steer the state in the best way possible.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I have a couple announcements before we head out,
Sure.
if you don't mind. Okay, so before we close, just a few announcements. We have some great things going on. As you guys know, we just hosted State of the City. Who was at State of the City? Who attended? Did you guys love it? Chapman did a beautiful job. So thank you to our sponsor, Chapman University, for that. So upcoming, we have our business networking group. That's going to be on the first and third Wednesdays at Zito's Pizza. Our next one will be hosted on November 1st. We have 2 mixers between now and the next Eggs and Issues. We have Wednesday, which is tomorrow, the 25th, at Norm's Restaurant. And then we have Thursday, November 16th, at the Potting Shed by Carlisle, right here in the plaza. Ribbon cuttings, we have Old Town Jalapenos, which is that direction. No, yes, that way. I'm like, where are we? That direction behind us on November 8th. And this is actually our last Eggs and Issues in person this year. So if you're here, you're at the last one for the year in person. In November, we are going to do a special Giving Tuesday episode like we did last year. That will be virtual. Most likely I'll host it at Mariposa. So we'll be there with their team over at Mariposa. They have a lovely location, so we'll try and show you that all on the live. So join us. That'll be on November 28th. So we'll be still probably full from turkey and all of your festivities of the holidays. Make sure to follow us on social media. That's the best way to keep in the loop. We have everything posted there, also on orangechamber.com. A huge thank you to Citrus City Grill. We are glad to be back here after, I think we were here a summer ago. So thank you so much. Food and breakfast is delicious. For those of you watching and you're not here, please come by for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. They have amazing food. Special thank you as well to our Chairman Circle sponsors. We cannot do this without you. Of course, our chamber staff, our board of directors, I see many of you here today, and our community and business members. Thank you so much, and we will see you next month. Thank you again.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.